We're under pressure to get our new workshop built, but you wouldn't have guessed it from the idyllic setting. Yes, we continue work on the pump house project today, converting an old warehouse into a workshop and a storeroom for our museums and to filming. In part 1, Lily taught us all about its history. We smashed it up. We tore down walls, scrubbed it, insulated the ceiling and started painting it, and realised what a huge undertaking we'd started. And by the end of today, I want to show you big progress, but also how we've already used this space to great effect for an event. But that's for later, because a delivery is here, and it's a very important one. This is a lorry full of posi joists, which are lighter weight and stronger than a traditional timber wood joist, and it will allow us to span the distances we need while giving us all of the weight bearing that we predict that we need for the space. We've got 18 of them in total, which will form the main structure, and then we'll have some shorter joists which will be installed at either end of the building, for example around our goods lift, to give room for that. We've allowed ourselves a week to get these installed, but we are missing one important thing. Self-supporting joists are not yet a thing, unfortunately, so we're going to need some walls, and some very strong walls to put them on. Now, as I said in part 1, don't worry, I'm not responsible for the calculations, and I know you don't want to see every single nail going in, even though the nail gun is great fun to use. So rest assured that a lot happens on this build, not just in the bits that you see, but in many of the bits that you don't see as well, to ensure that the structure is not just to spec, but massively over-engineered to what we actually need. Now, the local builder's yard is very conveniently just a 3-minute walk from the mill, so we can't really justify paying for delivery or hiring a van to collect all of the wood that we need. We will pay for it with sore shoulders, especially me. I mean, you know guys, that camera is terribly heavy. Crack on, Jason and Holly. And then for the build to progress, we need to finish the rear walls, which have a damp-proof course around them, insulation, and of course the required air gaps around them. And we're also sealing up and insulating these single glazed windows, as we want to keep the temperature as consistent as possible in this room. The walls are being pinned with great big steel rods into the floor, and resin as well to help hold that in place. And the joists will be pinned through the brick wall to the exterior of the building as well. So there's a lot of support going on around here. It's not just the wood that you can see, there's these great steel rods too. A material lift will make easy work of supporting the joists while we fit them, so we've hired one of those. They kind of remind me of Donkey Kong platforms, which I think is quite fitting. And here's a top tip from me. Old pump houses are full of metal under the floors. I've no idea what I hit with this drill, but it's only good for stirring soup now. Oops. Since our first video, there have been no shortage of offers to help and support with the build, which has been really heartwarming, so thank you to everyone who reached out to us. And today we've got Pete with us, helping us to position the joists. They need to be spaced out, well, most of them, with around about a 40 centimetre gap to meet our spec, although some do sit closer where the building's brickwork doesn't allow for that positioning. There we go.
Yeah, that one just needed a minor adjustment. And this one.
So that's that line?
To that line, yeah. Perfect.
So I took a trip to the PCBWay.com factory to see all the great services they offer with my own eyes. If you need PCBs, CNC milling, 3D printing or design services, then you could visit them just like me. But it's far easier to go to PCBWay.com and order with a few simple clicks. Thanks for showing me around PCBWay.com and for supporting the channel.
Ready?
Yeah.
We then packed and added the final uprights to the front wall, happy that everything was level in the right place, and this feels like a really important step in the build. We can install our staircase now.
Clear. Okay,
it's one small step for the Retro Collective, one deadly staircase for visitors, but we can survey for the first time what will be the upper deck of the room. And this will fill the whole space from the near to the far wall. Different joists will fill the gaps on the right hand side here, and it will amount to a repair shop filming space that we could never have dreamed of having a few months ago. You lot, remember, made this happen, which is why we're so determined to get it done and operational for you to enjoy the output from.
Very brave Richard underneath.
And the overall floor space of this will actually be, for those of you who have followed us long enough to remember, larger than Cave 2.0. Yeah, bigger than the entire cave that we had at the previous location. It's quite mind-boggling. It's been a busy week, but we're not finished yet. I gained access to the rear of the building to capture Jason pinning those joists through the wall. And you'll recall that we found a hidden room in part 1 that nobody could quite explain. Well, while I was in the undergrowth and I had access to the area, filming Jason's drill bit, I found another crack to poke the camera into back here, and through here we can see that it is filled with big scary electricity company equipment with big scary yellow stickers on. I think it's safe to say we will not be going anywhere near that, and we should probably brick up the hole in our room rather than poking cameras through it. Sorry, no hidden room urban exploring for us, and we're not about to get internet famous today. What a shame. Next up, it's the subfloor for the upper deck, if that's what we're calling it now. The upper pump deck, maybe. So Holly and I set about cutting and nailing those boards into place. And you'll notice while we do just how carefully we've had to position the height of it. Now the building we think had a gantry in a previous life, but it never had a first floor. So the height of the room was for the pumping equipment installed down on the ground floor. So we had to make sure that our floor isn't so high that we bash our heads on the trusses above us, but not so low that the storerooms become unusable below us. It's a tricky balance, and replacing the trusses, of course, that's not an option for us with our budget, although we will smarten them up at a later date. Volunteer Gavin now joined us for a couple of days, so thank you Gavin, and he's strengthening the stairs, fitting noggins and being immensely helpful while we fit the subfloor. And then we got more wood. There's always more wood. This load we could get on Richard's roof rack. These are some sheets for wall cladding at a later date. And you can see the route here now from the yard back to the mill on board Richard's car cam. No expense spared here. What a ride.
Okay, we'll swing round and put these in front of this lot. Thanks.
And then we've got even more wood to unload with the arrival on the back of a truck of the floorboards for upstairs. These are beautiful, reclaimed floorboards from an old distillery. We weren't sure if they would arrive with the smell of distillery about them too, and they don't, which is probably for the best. They've been dried out, treated and planed nice and straight so that they'll be easy for us to fit. And I'd love to do it this week, but with so much painting and work still to be done above us, it just makes sense to just hold off on laying the floor yet so that we don't ruin it. I can't wait to see the effect it has when we do. But we've made great progress again. And as we finished the subfloor and the room took shape, I started to get one of my ideas, one of those ideas that makes everyone look at me a bit funny. The structure is safe. We have power. Could I do something with this room for an event that we had coming up at the weekend? Would that be so mad? You see, we had Tony and Ollie booked in to give a talk on the secret world of arcade raids. That's when collectors gain access to a dilapidated pier, a warehouse, or in one case, an abandoned ship, with a view to saving arcade cabinets, which would be destroyed if they weren't rescued. Wouldn't this room be great, I thought, as a setting to celebrate the world of arcade raids, to host the talking and to create an atmosphere for the subject matter? And they only went and let me do it. So, after installing many extension cables, asking Richard to paint some wood, and putting more lighting in here than a small airport, we went and fetched some of the cabinets that we'll be repairing in the workshop when it's operational. And we created an exhibit which I called Arcade Decay, which I'll let you take in for a moment now. I promise you it is the very same room that we've just been working on. Have a look.
Whilst looking around this room, I managed to catch up with a long-time family friend and ex-employee, Mike, who had some really interesting stories from back in the day.
You know, manufacturing as quickly and as easily as possible and be exactly the same. So they built all these patterns, and effectively all you do is you just run a router around it and cut the panels out, and they're all identical then, and then the big stuff gets cut.
I'm going to let you get a feel for the atmosphere now, because walking into this room for the first time was unbelievable. I mean, just the smell of the mould and the damp in the air. I'm just so glad we had masks on, because it's really overbearing.
Each haunted cabinet has a hidden speaker which periodically plays a slowed or distorted version of its sounds, each representing decades-old joyous memories tinged with the sadness of their current broken state, but the hope that our workshop will restore them to their former glory very soon. And you'll have heard the voice of Alex, the Arcade Archives founder, presenting an Arcade Raid episode which is playing in the exhibit on loop here. And he also came to help for the weekend, so it was great to be able to show him the space and share the event with him. The sights, the sounds, the thunderstorm piped around the room, and then the documentary created a space that I hope people enjoyed immersing themselves in when they visited. Although nobody, I'm sad to say, fell for the American Quarter that Rich and I superglued to the floor. Later that day, the cabinets were moved to the edges of the room to create a backdrop for the sold-out talk, and it proved to be the perfect setting for a fantastic talk from Tony and Ollie, which I did film, so you'll get to enjoy that soon on the channel. And on the whole, it just felt like a really nice bonus, especially for returning visitors, to get something new to experience, to enjoy the cave, to enjoy the Arcade Archive, and also this pop-up exhibit. For one weekend only, the only time the pump house will ever be in a state like this, when we can use it in this way before we put up the partition walls. But with the fun over, it was time to get back to work.
Ollie,
Yeah,
put your hat on.
I'm about to put my hat on.
Ollie, helmet.
This is the top one.
Ollie, put your helmet on.
The other one again.
Ollie, where's your helmet?
We'll be aiming to bring you another update on the build in a few weeks' time, hopefully with even more progress as we edge closer and closer to our dream workshop, our inventory space, and our goal of being the best museum we can be to preserve all of the arcades, computers, and consoles that we can to share with you in this space. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to come and visit and see for yourself what we're up to, head to retrocollective.co.uk, where you can see the events that we have on. And if you'd like to support this project and everything we do, head to patreon.com/The Retro Collective, where you can join all of the names on our credit roll who currently support us. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ollie,
Yeah.
put your hat on.